The burgeoning scandal involving Congressman Eric Swalwell and a honey trap that is a suspected Chinese spy who used her charms to get close to the congressman and various other elected officials is probably just the beginning of what could be a huge story involving Beijing's espionage efforts here in the United States. Former CIA officer Dan Hoffman says there are likely thousands of operations like the one that targeted Swalwell and the horny Midwestern mayors.
It's extraordinarily diverse and ubiquitous. If you think about Chinese intelligence officers, they're operating in Washington, D.C. and at the consulates in San Francisco and New York and Chicago and Los Angeles. They use all sorts of collectors and some very creative ways of stealing our secrets. They are, ruthlessly focused on conducting espionage in this country.
And China's sphere of influence in America is coming into sharper focus. Hollywood, big tech, multinational corporations, professional leagues, the NBA, LeBron James, remember that? And even American colleges, as we have seen, all facing new scrutiny over examples of them bending to Beijing's will. Why? Money, who knows what else. But Dana, are you afraid ever? I mean, some of our friends, Erica and my friends, Asian, worry about racism. Isn't that a concern, as we are legitimately concerned about the big issue of espionage and stealing secrets?
Yeah, and I think that, sure, and we have to be aware of it. I mean, we knew what happened as soon as to some people of Asian descent. And just a few of the reported cases when the COVID first started of them being targeted and attacked. Of course, nobody wants that. But I do think this. America has been given a wake-up call in this Swalwell thing. Now, maybe he didn't realize maybe that he was being duped. And then when he found out, he cooperated with authorities. And look, okay, let's just talk about that. But his explanations here to now have not really been very good. And they're trying to distract by saying that, well, Kevin McCarthy on the Republican side needs to deal with QAnon. Okay, maybe fine, but actually, can we go back to the subject at hand, because you're not answering any of those questions. And these questions continue into the Senate races in Georgia. Jon Ossoff, one of the Democrats that's running, has had to amend his financial disclosure because his documentary film company, remember, he ran for the House, got a ton of money to run for that race, didn't win. After that, all of a sudden, this Chinese communist media company out of Hong Kong that was basically very much against the protest started donating or funding this documentary film company. And David Perdue, the senator that is challenging him, said, you need to make that right. You need to be honest about that and transparent about it. And Ossoff had to amend his financial dealings. I've got to tell you, if you look at who do they target? Up-and-coming, young, progressive people? If I were in Georgia, I'd take a look.
That's why no one has ever targeted me, because I'm not young or progressive. Anyway, Greg, your best big picture. What are we looking at here? Why does this matter to mom and pop America that China is stealing these secrets? So they buy from China. They buy stuff cheaper.
Well, I think we could safely say that honeypots are bad. Look what they did to Winnie the Pooh. When you look at this story, I want you to see this Venn diagram. All right, you have two sets in this Venn diagram. In one set, Trump haters. In the other set, people beholden to China. If you look at within each set, it's Hollywood, NBA, academia, big tech, and media. They're in the same these are the same people. The same exact people. There has to be a connection. That Trump bothers them because it impacts their relationship with China. Now, I want to also talk about what drives so many people to disagree with Trump. It's because they hate him. And so they end up making these ridiculous decisions like this, like being okay with a country that has concentration camps. And I'm wondering, how much of their lives are dictated by their irrational hatred of Trump? Did they stop eating oranges? Do they no longer suntan? Did they give up golf? Do they boycott people named Donald? I mean, these are people that are essentially changing their lives because of this irrational hatred for somebody who reminds them of a boss they didn't like.
Jesse, is Swalwell just a dope? It just seems like... So I The reason he got no votes is that everyone looked at him and saw nothing home.
Geraldo, if I was a member of Congress, I would assume every woman trying to sleep with me was trying to compromise me. Her name was Fang Fang. She was a Chinese national. She was bundling money for him. That didn't set off any alarm bells to Swalwell, House Intel guy. Has he watched a movie before? If he's really in love with her, maybe have someone tailor to see if she goes to the consulate. Have your Intel guys run her name through the system, see if anything comes up. Then maybe you could dip your toe in. But seriously, you're just going to trust someone like this? They have programs in Washington for congressmen to tell them, hey, these are some of the things you need to look out for. I think Pelosi sponsored him. Remember, he beat Pete Stark out in California as this young gun. She put him on House Intel. Then he screwed up. She's embarrassed. He made a fool out of himself. He made a fool out of her. So she doesn't want to show weakness and cut him down. But Geraldo, you nailed it right at the top. It's about money. This is a country, China, 1.5 billion people. Our company's salivating over that kind of market. Those are revenues for centuries. Nike, Apple, Wall Street. So they just look the other way. They donate to Democrats who are soft on China, and they get their way. Trump comes along and says, hey, guys, we got to slap tariffs on him, and that rocked the boat, and he needed to go.
Isn't part of the problem, or a big part of the problem, Judge, that politics is such a voracious consumer of money?
No. Politics is as clean or as dirty as you want it to be. Look, this guy goes from city council and with the help of Fang Fang ends up in Congress, and then a minute later thinks he should run for president while swearing to the American people that President Trump is a Russian asset. I mean, where does he get this kind of chutzpah at the end of the day? What makes him think he should run for president? Where is all this hate coming from? Where is this support coming from? Look, and for Nancy Pelosi to come out and say, everybody knew. McCarthy says, I never knew, no one told me. But as soon as Swalwell knew, the woman disappeared. Why did she disappear? Who told her to disappear? There's a lot more in this story, I'm telling you.
You think he tipped her off?
Don't know.
That'll be the cliffhanger.